Day 108 of making a platform fighter. Well, originally I was just going to reuse all the main characters as enemies, but maybe after messing around with this just kind of placeholder enemy I had, I might make some ancient mech with like arms that are floating and turn into a fighter, if I could get it to work properly. Day 109 of making a platform fighter. I was checking on the sword fighter's hitbox when I noticed it wasn't constantly knocking back or damaging the enemy, and I found out that every frame it was just trying to knock it back instead of being like one thing. Granted, I know how to fix this, but I'm debating if I want to change how hit detection works in this game. Day 110 of making a platform fighter. I decided to just throw hitboxes on just random parts of the character to make it work instead of doing raycast. Granted, now I'm having a weird issue where knockback is different on each side of the enemy I'm fighting, so I need to deal with that. Day 111 of making a platform fighter. While I was working on like the hitboxes and just getting all the attacks in so they do something, I realized I've never actually implemented hit stun into any of my moves, so going to have to work on that. Day 112 of making a platform fighter. I was just adding hit stun variables to like all the moves. Also, I'm just going to use shorts for that and probably change some other stuff to short just to cut down on space. And I realized when adding that I didn't have any up or down airs added, so I'm going to be adding those. Day 113 of making a platform fighter. So changing all the stats into shorts may have broken some things in the game, and I'm just fixing all of it. Also implementing the knockback for the various moves. Also, some animations might be broken now. Day 114 of making a platform fighter. So I noticed when I was testing attacks for the animation stuff that it was instantly snapping. Looked at the console and noticed all the startup time was 0. And I found out that you have to divide a float by a float to get a fraction, not a float by a short, which is what I was doing. So I just made a function to fix all that. Day 115 of making a platform fighter. Updating Unity to the newest long term support version to deal with that critical vulnerability. Also, I'm kind of sick right now, so I'm just updating one of the characters and getting all their moves in. Day 116 of making a platform fighter. Just fixing some stuff with the basic enemy. He'll now spin to where you were and try to attack you instead of spinning the second you just get close. Granted, I may need to throw a cooldown on it. Day 117 of making a platform fighter. Maybe it's because I was sick with this cold, but I decided to throw together a compilation of my July shorts. And I might do one for August and September since I do kind of like seeing my progress. Day 118 of making a platform fighter. Yesterday I saw this program called Crocodile 3D. Now it might be remnants of the cold I had or the fact it was on sale, but I decided to buy it. Mainly because I thought it might be a good idea for making models in 3D, and because I have like zero actual skills in 3D art. So I'll mess around with it this weekend and see how I end up liking it. Day 119 of making a platform fighter. After messing around with the model, I decided to try and throw it into Unity to see how it looked. And after a while of failing to get transparency to work, I found a video online that showed how to do it. And now it kind of works. Might do a couple more models, throw it all into a scene, and see how I like the look of it. Day 120 of making a platform fighter. Fixed an issue where KOing the player would break the game, and fixed another thing realizing all the playable characters are currently flagged as enemies. And had a funny bug where all the characters would just show up on stage at the same time, which I would love to keep in the game, but I don't even have plans for multiplayer yet. Day 121 of making a platform fighter. Just editing the characters, stats, and some of the enemies. When I noticed this weird glitch where the enemy would just stand still after I went through a portal. Well, it was the fact that I had some old code and it was just getting stuck on it, so I deleted it, which made it mostly work. But I still had this funny glitch where the enemy would just go back and forth when you were just outside of its aggro range. Day 122 of making a platform fighter. I said I was mainly focusing launching on PC and phones, which means the two control types I was focusing on was keyboard and touch controls. However, I know I need to add controller support, which is what I was doing today, but currently it's really sensitive and up and down are kind of not working. Day 123 of making a platform fighter. Everything with the controller is now working. However, I did realize something. Since I'm using three different control schemes, the old input system is probably not going to work for remapping. And I've been dreading this, but I think I need to learn Unity's new 4-year-old mapping system that I kept procrastinating on doing. Day 124 of making a platform fighter. Again, I'm trying to get the new input manager to work, and I remember why I stopped using it and why I swapped back, since I can just use whatever accesses I normally use. But I'm going to try to get it working this time, and I can't get gameplay until I get inputs working. Day 125 of making a platform fighter. I finally got the new input method working. After following a tutorial, I got some of it, but it still wasn't reading. But after playing around with it, I finally figured out how to pull inputs, and now I'm where I am before. Also, I need to fix my mouse. It's been double clicking so much recently. Day 126 of making a platform fighter. It's late. I had to deal with a bunch of work things, and the controller support isn't working with the new input system. But I'm just going to figure it out later, or tomorrow. Day 127 of making a platform fighter. Today I found out joysticks and gamepads are two different things, and I should know this because I literally used to sell flight sticks. Well, controller support's working. Also, I'm probably going to push another web and phone build soon. Day 128 of making a platform fighter. Just making sure all the teleporters are working and teleporting the player to the correct spot, since the next goal is to create a new web and phone build. Granted, I have been having issues uploading to the Google Play Store recently. Day 129 of making a platform fighter. I broke input. While I was adding the ability to swap characters back, keyboard inputs just stopped working. For some reason, the controller inputs still work, so I'm going to try and fix that. Also fix a bug where returning to the start screen would spawn you at a random point when you re-entered the game. Update? Swapped in from floats to pools back to floats, and now everything's magically working. Day 130 of making a platform fighter. Decided to make the enemy kind of knocked over to clearly show was hit stun for testing. Also made it so when the player is knocked out, a new character would appear. Then I realized some weird knockback scaling since I'm using health, and the more damage you take, the more you're knocked back, but since there's like a total cap amount of health, scaling is really whack with this formula. Day 131 of making a platform fighter. Just throwing around some enemies on the various scenes and building it for web and setting up the web page, and now it should be good for testing. I might need to fix a few things. Day 132 of making a platform fighter. Since there were issues yesterday with the web build, I decided to do some editing and checks to make sure other parts were working, which led me to do a lot of messing around with how characters were launched. Also, I really need to build a tutorial stage with a giant wall of text that just tells people how to play. Day 133 of making a platform fighter. I made several builds today. Each one showed me so many problems, from like the jab not actually activating its hitboxes sometimes, enemies not like returning to where originally they were, and them constantly attacking the player. I'm just gonna throw up a web build and probably work on art tomorrow. Day 134 of making a platform fighter. I was going to do art stuff today, but then I remembered I wanted to get stuff done before my trip, so I ended up adding animations and various attack things. However, most of it just isn't working, and I'm trying to figure out why. Day 135 of making a platform fighter. After throwing up a build on itch, I decided that during the next month I'm probably going to pick which 3D modeling software I should use. Like I mentioned before, I used to use Blender, but haven't touched that in a while, and recently I started messing around with Crocodile 3D. So I'll probably watch some tutorials and decide which one to use. Day 136 of making a platform fighter. I was kind of busy today, so I kind of just watched a tutorial about Crocodile 3D painting and did some editing for stuff for the current build. Day 137 of making a platform fighter. After failing at making a tree in Crocodile, I decided to try and give one of the characters a projectile for testing. And now I'm having bugs with the character jumping and firing a projectile, so that's tomorrow's problem. Day 138 of making a platform fighter. Finally got fireballs working and the character to jump properly. Also, I'm going on my trip probably today, so I've pre-recorded a bunch of shorts, so I'd have something to post for the next like 2 weeks. Thanks so much for watching. I'm recording this on the 27th of October, so as you can see, I did do some videos in advance for my trip, and I think I still need to do like 8 more shorts in 4 days. So I'm going to start doing that, starting with trying to do that low poly tree in Blender this time. And take care out there.